back to episode 3 of the John Daigle Show, where we go wherever the wind takes us. It is Thursday morning, and what I believe is considered to be the slowest sports day of the year. No baseball. Golf started at 2:30 in the morning Eastern time, which I've been up watching since. So I'm just going to try and attempt to send you into the weekend gently. As we've been doing so far in every episode, I like to begin with a cocktail just in case you want to make one with your friend over the weekend. And we're going to keep it very simple this morning. All you need, if you're making these, are honey. I have local honey here, lemon, and gin. Simple. As I've already taught you in the past, just in case you don't have the available tools at home, tablespoons, not even fancy, regular tablespoons. 2 is 1 ounce. So when I say we need 2 ounces of gin in what this cocktail is referred to as a bee's knees, we need 4 tablespoons. And I'm going to pour that right now. Then cut that in half with 1 ounce of honey. Again, just 3 ingredients for a bee's knees. 1 ounce of honey, of course, is 2 tablespoons worth into our shaker. And then 3/4 of an ounce, so a tablespoon and a half of lemon juice. I have a squeezer, but honestly, from my experience, most of the time, a full lemon is 1 ounce. So if you don't even have like a lemon juice, a juicer, and you just want to squeeze the lemon into it, I say go for it. I say a full lemon, a small full lemon is 1.5 ounces usually. Maybe it's 2 ounces, but it'll be okay. This is not baking. You don't have to get it right. If it's too lemony or acidic, you can always just cut it with a little more honey. Ice into our strainer. We are then going to shake it really quickly for everyone. And I see my guest is waiting in the background, so he's about to come on. But we have to make the cocktail first. 15 to 20 seconds, the typical rule. And then once that is ready, I think the bee's knees will be beautiful and good to go. So we'll just strain it out. Coupe glass if you have one, always nice. Just like we discussed with the pickle juice martinis on Tuesday. No ice necessary since it just chilled into the strainer. A lot like a martini. We just want a cold glass. There you go, Joanna. As you said, honey, chilled lemon juice gin. Yeah, beautiful. It's that simple. And now, Joanna and everyone else, we are bringing to the show, and I know Rob Coakley, 67K is not the idea, is no longer the goal when you're in day 6 of the World Series of Poker. But top 100, 57.5 net, depending how much you had staked, I still think is a great accomplishment. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we finished 138. And like you said, not the absolute goal yesterday by any means. But what I will say is if we were going to get eliminated in the level we got eliminated, at least we did it when we did it because it was like 50 more people till a pay jump. So rather than playing for another 2 hours and still making the same amount of money, I'd rather have gone out when I did.
When you say that it was not the goal, when did it switch in your head? When did it become, oh, like this is day 6, day 5, whatever, and I'm sitting here? Because at one point, as I'm checking in throughout the week, you get down to 280K at one point with like over 500 people remaining. So you were top 100 in a large field, and then you got to one of the lower stacks, and then around the final couple of days, you got up to around 2.6 million. So when did the switch flip and say, oh, I'm actually competing here?
Well, to be honest, I've had to extend my hotel stay about like 4 times. So the thought process was never even to make day 6 in the beginning. It was come out, my goal was day 3, which I thought would be the money to start with, and just roll from there. And like you said, I actually was down to 180K, which was 6 big blinds on
Mhm.
day 5. After I got cut down in a squeeze spot, that was like just the first time that I had made a move, and obviously the guy has it, just how it goes. But um, the goal to get further, it's always, once I was in the money, it was just to win it. Like at that point, just to try to find a way to win it. And don't get me wrong, we are very happy with the finish. But yeah, it was very bittersweet yesterday, is what I will say.
Okay, so let's step back then and
Mhm.
begin with the hotel accommodations because that's something commentary kept reminding everyone as I continued watching the rest of day 6
Yeah.
deep into the night yesterday. They kept telling everyone, remember, like, this is a transplant event. Like, not everyone lives here. Thus, everyone is constantly jumping in between your rest breaks when you go to bed in the evening. Everyone's constantly waking up and moving Airbnbs before they come back in. They're jumping into different hotel rooms because you can't plan to play 7 days into a 10K entry field. And so, how does that work for you?
Well, I'm lucky because I have a connection at Caesars. So basically, what happened for me, I go through my connection. I booked my room until, what did I have it till? I got out here Tuesday. I had it until Sunday.
Mhm.
So I was good through Sunday. Then we were still here, and I was like, oh, I got to extend this for a day because it's a 12-hour day. You have no idea if you're going to make it through to the next day or not. So I extended it for a day through my, we'll say, host. And then I extended it another day, and it just became chaos for her. So she ends up going, the third time I went to extend it, she goes, I'm just extending you till Friday. Just go win the thing. And it was a little chaotic, but we got there. We made it. We made it. We figured it out. She got a little annoyed, but she understood the situation. And I only had to move rooms once, luckily, and that wasn't because of anything with extensions. It was, there was this big high pitched humming noise coming through my room, and we weren't able to stand that. But yeah, so it wasn't a big deal for me.
So you were never on a featured table,
Thank God.
but but as the camera strolled between all the tables, we did catch glimpses of your beret time and time again. I was always just looking for, I know you're a V-neck guy, or you had the
Yeah.
V-neck, but I was more importantly looking for the right arm, the tattoo sleeve, and the beret. That's how you were noticeable. But honestly, it was, I don't mean to laugh at the lowest point of your tournament, but genuinely the only time you were featured on the free feed, because those who don't subscribe to Poker Go on YouTube get the first hour or two free, and then it becomes subscriber only viewing. The only time you were featured in those 6 days in the free portion was your very last hand. And they even said, this is the last hand we're going to show today on day 6. And that, of course, the last hand they show happened to also be your last hand, unfortunately. So the time we got to see of you was the moment that also gives you PTSD. Was there anything going into this hand, or was this simply you only had, I believe it was 5x the blind, so 5 bet blind, big blind at this time, and you were just trying to get it in?
Well, first of all, this is a scally cap Daigle, as we like to call
Oh,
them in Boston, not a
okay.
beret.
Please educate me because I still call, coming up from the South, everyone's confused when I call skull caps toboggans because I
Oh
believe
yeah,
only in Texas are they called toboggans. And when I use that phrase anywhere else, obviously it's a sled or the word just doesn't exist.
yeah,
And so what is it? Not a scallywag. What is it?
scally cap.
Scally cap. Got it. Okay. I
Yeah,
will know that move. What's the difference between a scally cap and a beret?
berets are like circular.
Got it.
This is more like Peaky Blinders. So this
So
is,
Bryson DeChambeau, Rob Coakley, and the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, they wear scally caps.
yes,
Got it. I just need to make sure we get that right.
yeah. And it wasn't even the intention, but I wore it the first day. I have a couple different hats here. And I was just like, you know what? We're just going to roll with the Scally cap for the whole tournament at this point.
I think it has to be your thing. Greg Raymer never got away from fossil sunglasses. I think the
Yeah,
Scally Cap now has to be your identity in the poker world.
I think it is at this point. So the last hand was A7 of clubs. I had 1.1 million, I think, to start the hand,
Mm-hmm.
which was about 12 big blinds, 13 big blinds at that point.
13. Okay. I thought you got knocked out in the 100, 200K portion, but maybe it elevated after that.
No, it was still 40-80 at that point, and the guy that opened up, he had opened about 25 to 30% of all the hands so far at the table. So his range is pretty wide at that point, in my
It's a
opinion.
fun man. It's a fun way to play. Not that that's how I play, especially primarily as a table game player, but Rigby, for instance, as you know, was on the featured table because it's a random draw. He happened to draw back to back. So we got like 3 consecutive days of watching Rigby. And it's just how you pick those ranges when you have a player like that.
Right.
It's gotta be optimal long term, but you're putting yourself into a lot of short term optimability.
Yeah. You should be opening relatively wide,
Mhm.
but not crazy. And you should be opening enough that you're folding 3 bets. And that was kind of the thought process here. Is he's opened so much at this point, and it folds around to me. I have 12 big blinds. Flatting would have been like atrocious. Obviously, we're never going to flatten that spot. So the question is, do we fold A7 of clubs, which I just don't think is the play there, and we still have enough fold equity at that point. So he opens. I have A7 of clubs. I take a minute and I just put it in, and we're not looking for the call. We're looking for the fold at that point. But knowing that if he does call, we're at least 30% to win the hand, most likely,
Mhm.
unless he has aces, right? Like we're always at least 30%. So he just ended up having nines at that point, so we were 30% to win the hand, and we just never got there.
Uh, the updates log for the World Series is significantly long, so I can't find it. But I know how poker player minds work, and I know you remember your biggest win or best hand played throughout the tournament. So why don't you break that one down for us as well?
Well, there's more than one because it's almost like different. I mean, obviously different levels of like blind play, but every day there's always going to be some sort of significant hand. The very first day was uh was a hand where I had ace king of spades. I opened. I got called by the loose player at the table, and just flopped the stone cold nuts, and just got paid all 3 streets a ton of money, and that's where we built our stack basically starting
Mhm.
there. And I don't know if you remember, but at the end of day one, I was in 13th of my overall day one, top 100 stack going into day two or something like that. And then day two, the big hand was I opened with 9-10 of hearts from the button. Everybody else had folded. The big blind called. I flopped a flush draw, and me and him had fireworks on the flop and the turn. The turn didn't come a heart, and at that point the river bricked out as well. So I'm just sitting there with 10 high, and there's a ton of chips in the pot. And he checked, and I probably missed a bet. I'm probably supposed to bet there to try to steal the pot, but just the way he played it like the nuts almost, and I was already blocking the flush draw, but I checked behind, and he had 7-8 of hearts. So we won a gigantic pot with 10 high. So that was pretty amazing. But the hand that sticks out the most is one that I ended up folding. It's probably an
Hmm.
insignificant pot. It's I opened King 10 early. This guy Ryan, who's still in the tournament, I believe. I think he might win it. He's the best player I've played with in the tournament.
Ryan who?
There's two Ryans left that I played with both of them, so
Okay.
I don't know which one it is. I can look that up later, but
And you survived. I don't know if you know this, by the way, but you survived every past World Series of Poker winner. I believe when it got down to around 147 on day 2, by that point, every past winner had been eliminated. So we are guaranteed a new champion this year. And there's still a lot of good players left, but of course, you and Christian Harder had my heart on day 6. Both of who were eliminated on the same day.
I think Joe Hashem made it to day 5.
Yes, he did. And his interview actually was very Jacob deGrom. Like, he was heartbroken. It
Really?
is clear that he still has a lot of passion, not just for the money, but a lot of passion for poker, which is amazing.
That's good. That's good to hear. So yeah, this one hand, King 10 spades open, like middle late position, get called by 2 players. Flop comes 4-4-10, 2 diamonds. I'm in the middle because the button had called. That kid Ryan checked. He was in the blinds. I fired a bet. Button calls, and then the guy in the small blind, that Ryan kid, just rips a big 3-bet at that point. And I'm sitting there with King 10, and I know he's repping the 4, and I should have just shoved because his range is like everything at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up folding. And it actually wasn't even that big of a hand, but significant in the point that like it was just the worst play I made in the entire tournament.
So you ultimately do not know what he had.
No, but I'm 99% sure he didn't have a 4.
Well, I think that's what separates us, not only in poker, but in life as well, as our own intuition. So not following our intuition is usually what eats us alive, as you are dealing with. Are you in Vegas? I'm still assuming.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas for the day. I take the red eye home tonight.
When you texted me last night and said, you're no longer coming to visit me in Chicago, I was like, yeah, of course, dude. Like, you have to be mentally wiped out at this point. That is 6 consecutive days of thinking, of just making decisions over and over and over again for basically 18 hours a day. Like, that'll drown any man or woman.
It is the most mentally draining thing I've done in my entire life, to be honest. Like you said, it's 12 to 13-hour days every day of just sitting at the table trying to focus, watching everybody, trying to learn players. And then you get a day like I had on day 4 when we made the money. And I had to change tables 4 or 5 different times that day.
Wow.
So you're sitting down and you're trying to learn your table and you're just breaking tables because that's when the money bubble burst. So then people were just getting it in at that point. And we're just like breaking table after table. But we got to play with Ryan Garcia for like 2 hours. That was fun.
I was going to ask, who was the best players that you got to sit with this weekend?
So the biggest, the most well-known person that I played with, like all overall, was probably Ryan Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Seymour was at the table next to mine at one point,
Which a very large human to begin with. And yes, for everyone listening, we are talking about that Richard Seymour who plays poker. But seeing him next to a bunch of poker dweebs makes him even larger.
Yes, he's a massive man. I got to talk to him in the hallway for a minute, which was pretty cool because, I am from New England area. So talking to Richard Seymour was cool. The best players that I played with was that Ryan kid that I brought up. But I got to sit next to Chance Corneth for a level.
Okay.
Like the level right before he busted. I don't know if you were watching when he busted. I haven't watched the hand, but I know he busted a Rigsby where they got in a massive pot. He had ace king suited, and Rigsby actually had aces for once, and he busted. But yeah, I sat next to Chance, so that was cool. But yeah, that was pretty much my list of big names and celebrities. We had good table draws most of the tournament until day 5.
When were you the most nervous throughout the week?
So people are probably not going to believe this, but I've had this weird thing with poker.
Mhm.
I've back in my younger days, I've sat at a poker table before with the last of my money, whether it be a tournament or a cash game, like just the last money that I had to my name. And you would think that makes you nervous or changes your game or anything. As soon as I sit at a poker table, I'm in the zone, and I just everything else is evaporated. So I never get nervous at the table. Everything hits me afterwards, after the tournament or stuff's done. So yesterday when I got knocked out, went to the pay window, got back to the room, it hit me like a fucking sorry. It hit me
It's
like a
when they,
sack
when
of
they call
bricks.
something the John Daigle show, you could say fuck as much as you want. Go ahead. It doesn't matter.
Well, it hit me like a ton of
I'm
bricks.
drinking at 9 in the morning. It's fine.
That's amazing. That is actually a drink that I would drink.
It's
So
it's credible. So if you had come to visit, I would make you. But rain check, we'll do that later. But anyway, so you
we
get back to the
we are.
hotel. You're
Yeah. Well, I
sweating
get back to the
bullets.
hotel. Get back to the hotel, and it just like hits me hard. Like just I kind of just dropped my backpack at that point, and I just laid in the bed for like 20 to 30 minutes, and it's just like every emotion hit me. Sadness because I was out, happiness because sort of validating. I mean, poker is a game of variance and stuff like that, but I still think 138th is a validating feat because this used to be my dream. Poker was my dream at one point,
Mhm.
and I kind of had a back burner, and I never got to play the main event. And this was my first time playing and getting the chance to, and I don't play nearly as much as I used to. Um, so it was a validating feeling, happy, because we made a decent payday, and so just everything swirling, just like every emotion hitting.
Now that you have netted profit, as you mentioned, top 150 finish in the World Series of Poker this year. I
Mm-hmm.
understand, given inflation and the way things work now, your ROI will get you a dozen eggs. That's about it. But where do you go from here, in your opinion, in the poker world? Like, do you want to get back into at least cash games for the time being? Did it reinvigorate and reignite that former passion you used to have for the game?
Well, we put all 67,000 on red on our way home back to the hotel. No, just kidding. Um, to an extent, it did, but I know where I have to be for the summer, which is doing best ball content.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, maybe we'll pop in a tournament here or there, but the tournament scene's kind of dead in New England for the most part right now. Like we have the biggest poker room in the world. Oh, well, sorry, we have the biggest poker room on the East Coast
Which
of
one?
the country, Foxwoods, and they only run 3 tournaments a week. So tournament poker in New England is like close to non-existent. The tours don't come through anymore. So I don't know, maybe some cash games here or there, but I've always loved tournaments more. I just always found that to be, you know, not that cash games aren't skill. Clearly they are. Like the best players crush cash games, but just the ability to you either have to win or you are out. You can't just reach in your pocket and buy back in if you get dusted off. Like you have to win. It's just always been the appeal to me.
Any other final thoughts on your time the last 6 days in the World Series? Because a lot of people listening probably will never play, maybe due to traveling, maybe due to money as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of poker players who, love the game, but never even dream of playing the World Series. So any thoughts?
If you get the opportunity to do it, obviously you should do it, which is like clearly, but planning out how to do it, I think is important. And I think I actually did it the right way. So for me, I did it the right way for me, is what I will say. I played day 1C, which there's 4 starting days.
Mhm.
So day 1C, I bought into the third level. I didn't start in level 1. I bought in halfway through the day because not many people are used to playing 12-hour poker days. And obviously, I'm not anymore either. So my plan and I do this with all tournaments anyways, was to buy in halfway through the day because there's so many amateur players in the beginning, and they're not going to know how to deal with that grind of playing poker for so long. So we come in with a huge edge by getting 4 hours of not sitting at the table and being refreshed, right? That they're dealing with that stuff. So I bought in late, day 1C, play a day, day off, play a day, day off, and then day 3 you play on from that point. So my big plan was to just have rest days in between and stack the calendar properly. So that might be something you want to think of. But everybody is different. So like maybe you want less off days or you want more off days. And there's certainly ways to do it, but just plan out what works for you and make sure you're mentally ready to play as well.
And as Josh said, you're still broke. Time to take that 67K and go max the Mastiff as we speak.
Well, we weren't even I wasn't going to bet. I was not going to max Best Ball Mania this year. I wasn't.
But it turns out you have some excess cash now.
But it turns out we're probably going to have to max Best Ball Mania this year.
It turns out you have to get back to your day job and need content, and now you have this excess cash, so you might as well max Best Ball Mania.
Yeah, because my whole thing this year was to reallocate Best Ball money to some of the bigger buy-ins, like me and you have talked about behind the scenes.
Which you have, which I'm still up for. And for those listening, because this is my show, we can just say it. I believe Rob and I on stream, maybe video content. We're trying to plan it. We're definitely going to we're going to split a 555 DK team, and then maybe even higher stakes than that. We got to sort through this quickly.
Yeah, and we definitely have to figure out how we're going to do it because the fast drafts are not filling and the slow drafts are taking a while. So we might.
And we both have sites we need different content for. So it's, I don't know. Maybe 20 TikToks might have to work. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. Or we can do a slow draft series or something where we just go through every pick and figure that out. But yeah, so we'll do a few more. I'm not going to go crazy though. I'm going to do a couple more higher stake teams. But I think I'm going to stick to my plan for best ball where I'm not playing in the puppies and stuff like that.
I'm not either, but I don't tweet that because I don't want to get yelled at. I don't want to get booed off Twitter. So I'm not playing any puppies. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to maximize my return on this year. And I just think the higher stake stuff, and then now that I'm fortunate to play a little bit more, is just the way to go between DK and between underdogs. So that's kind of the game plan.
Jeremy also mentions with this excess cash, you should try the Mystery Millions tournament. With that, tell everyone what they can get at Spike Week, because now you have to go back.
I have to go back, which is fine. We probably would have stayed doing that stuff because it's a lot of fun. At Spike Week, you get pure best ball content. Between myself, Eric Beimfor, we brought in a couple other guys, but unfortunately for everybody, you either have to see my face or even worse, Eric Beimfor's face constantly over there. But we provide draft streams, but we also provide a lot of content where we're actually talking strategy, trying to pick each other's brains and the chat's brains about what we think is going to be optimal going forward. We have tools to help you draft as well. We have an overlay that is something that even if I didn't work at Spike Week would use, because the overlay is there's just so many options to customize to what you're looking for your teams that it's amazing.
So you didn't see, because you were, competing for 10, 12 million to the top, but I did jump into the Spike Week Discord, which is why we're going to talk. Not only because we need to figure out this video content, but because I'm a donkey and I need help figuring out the layout on Mozilla. I have no idea how to work it. So my name is in the Spike Week Discord asking questions like I'm fucking Evan Silva because I can't figure it out. So when you're back home and settled and you're back with your girlfriend and your pets, I'm definitely going to call you and say, hey, walk me through this.
Absolutely. We can make that work. But yeah, there's so many options that we we have combinations for like first, second, third round players with the player that you want to draft. Like, hey, maybe I have 57% of this guy, but I have 0% of them with Tony Pollard or something like that. How do I not have that combination?
Amazing.
And that stuff is just so helpful because I, as a guy who is a player drafter where, I take stands on players, it helps me make sure that I have combinations of that player with other players.
I do too, but this year, because of the way tournament formats are working, both on DraftKings and Underdog, we're seeing players dip full rounds past ADP, not because of their microanalysis, but because they can't be stacked with if you draft them. And so I've been playing differently this year, and I don't know if it's right or wrong. We don't have it. This is a new year of drafting. Like literally the way people are drafting is completely different than last year. And so we're not going to know the results until next offseason when we can go back and study it. But I've still been taking chances on like uncorrelated Joe Burrow and then grabbing Tyler Boyd and Travion Williams, for example, instead, hoping that everyone else is injured in week 17. And I get to take these players all because Burrow dipped 14 spots because the Chase Higgins drafter knows no one else is going to take him. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's right or wrong. And I'm trying to figure it out, Rob.
Well, that's the $1 million question, right? And my portfolio is going to be much different than literally every other best ball content provider's portfolio because I'm taking a stand on elite QBs this year. I have.
Do you know my stat on elite QBs?
No.
Okay, so Hayden argues, and I agree with him. Like, it's open-ended question. What I'm trying to figure out, what we're all trying to figure out, that maybe the big three quarterbacks that we're talking about. There's only 3 elite quarterbacks. Fuck everybody else. Don't listen to anybody. But the big 3, maybe it's just the way it is now. Maybe these guys are just the new breed of rushing for 1,000 yards and throwing for 3,000 yards. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes, not so much the rushing, but obviously literally the best quarterback in NFL history. If you say Tom Brady, get the fuck out of here. So maybe that's just the new breed and how they are. Not to stomp on you further as you get eliminated from the World Series of Poker. But also what we saw last year, Hurts, Mahomes, and Allen were only the 10th, 11th, and 12th quarterbacks in the last decade to average over 24 points per game. It's an outlier. And 4 of those 12 instances, by the way, happened during the COVID season when rules didn't happen. Like the refs swallowed their whistles. They didn't throw flags because NFL was the only thing going. They literally said, get ratings as high as you can. We do not care about penalties this year. And that's why we saw an NFL literally record low since the Super Bowl era in penalties called. And so if that's the case, if they were such outliers, why wouldn't the QB 4 through 12 simply regress? Like if it stays the same, the QB 4 through 12 don't have to regress. All we need is the top 3 to not be outliers historically. And suddenly the entire tier is brought back together. And that's my argument for waiting and drafting Fields, Herbert, or Watson or Lawrence instead.
I totally understand that point. I get it. But there's, as with all fantasy things, I could twist this and we could sit here and discuss this for an hour.
Yeah.
Where I say, yeah, but 1 week, we're talking about week 17, and we could get into that.
Well, that's best ball too, which is also why I still love redraft. Because like when you have to get into the weeds and Lamar, as Charlie points out, yes, I should have included Lamar, of course. But when you have to get into the weeds for redraft, you see so many voices fade in our sphere because it's hard. It's a grind. But like grinding is what I like. I hate it, but I love it. I love getting to the weeds and grinding these things week to week, every single night, every single day. And so best ball, it's funny because although I may not want to draft Jonathan Taylor, when Taylor drops 9 spots to the second, third round turn, I take him every time. So it's like, this is stupid. What am I doing?
Yeah, well, I, sir, have, I think, 40% Mahomes exposure right now.
I thought you said you weren't. Oh, no. When you said you were taking a stand on the big 3, I thought you meant you weren't drafting them at all. You mean you're overdrafting them.
I'm overdrafting them.
Underdog and DraftKings.
specifically Mahomes and Hurts.
Okay, because Hurts is my QB1 by a lot, like by a lot ahead of Josh Allen. I explained that in my best ball tiers if anyone wants to go read them. But are you differing from DraftKings to underdog? Because I understand the Hurts, Allen, Mahomes top 20 argument on DraftKings, given that we get passing bonuses and rushing bonuses for Allen and Hurts. But for underdog, we don't get any bonuses at all. And that's where I actually don't want to take a stand, and I want to fade them in top 30.
So I'm not. That was a question I was asking about a month ago because I was thinking about the bonus stuff, and I might have even brought it up on the draft that we did together with Kyle and Ben. But for me, I'm just taking the stand on making sure that my portfolio is overweight on Mahomes and Hurts this year. Mahomes more so because just the teams you can build with Mahomes and still stack with him, I think is just such a cheat code because of his stacking partners being so cheap, other than Kelsey. I even kind of have a fade Kelsey, draft Mahomes strategy going where I don't have a lot of Kelsey.
I think I've audibled that on streams before, where if you're trying to get unique with Mahomes, really you take him and try to stack him in the second, beyond the second round without the Kelsey person who took him in the first one.
Yeah, and that's like what a lot of my Mahomes teams are. So it could kill me, or we're going to be advancing a lot of teams and having a real shot in week 17.
Maybe you don't have thoughts on this, but since this is a non-sponsored show, I can talk freely about every format because I play in every single best ball format. I just have to be careful and remember who's sponsoring which show. And in FFPC right now, as Fantasy Mojo has pointed out, the best ball tournament, Kelsey and Mahomes are taking up 52% of tournaments. Like, it's the literally least unique thing you could do is take Kelsey and then the comeback, take Mahomes in the second round. Do you have any thoughts on that? It may be a rhetorical question, but like I've been trying to toy with it, instead drafting Kelsey and then going T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, and then like coming back with other Bengals and Chiefs players instead.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I use a ton of the Spike Week tools for.
There you go. Get it in.
Because like legitimately we have on our site projected combos ownership. And Mahomes, Kelsey, for most tournaments, I haven't looked obviously in like 2 weeks now at this point, but was somewhere like 44%, the most drafted combo. The next one were the two Bengal stacks, right? T. Higgins and Chase with Burrow. And it is a question you have to start asking because it is such a high percentage, but you still need to be the one person to get through, or one of two people to get through your first 14 weeks together. And then you would worry about it in the playoffs. So at that point, does it actually matter? These are the things that I'm trying to think through as well, because could be a ton of Mahomes, Kelsey teams, but what teams are you building around it? And is it going to be unique enough, or do you just find ways to get a little more unique than other teams? Like this ADP stuff that people like, God, we're getting into some stuff here early in the morning. But
I'm already through one gin drink at 9:30, so it's okay.
But this whole ADP construct where like I've watched streams and with people that I highly respect, and they'll be like, oh, you have to take this guy. He's two picks past ADP right now. And it's like, who cares at that point? Now, we talk a full round and a half, different story. But why can't you reach around for a guy to make a team a little bit unique? Like right now, that fourth, fifth round of wide receivers. So, like, I love Drake London and I love Terry McLaurin, like, in that range. They're going right next to each other. How many people are drafting Terry McLaurin, Drake London teams? So why can't you reach around, get one of them, and get a unique team? So if you take Travis Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes, then you go Drake London, Terry McLaurin. Now you differentiated your team versus what other people are doing. Why are we like so tied to ADP? People are getting, I think, a little too stubborn on that front, in my opinion. If that makes sense. It is 7:30 in the
It
morning.
absolutely. Well, no. It absolutely does, because we're just playing. We're playing 2 separate games, or 4 separate games if you play on Drafters as well and FFPC. Because what I tell everyone about Underdog is that it's just different. It's not best ball. It's Underdog best ball. Like,
Yeah.
go to DraftKings and even wide receivers where you start 3, you have a flex and it's full PPR and you get bonuses. Even then, the room construct varies. You're not always guaranteed to see a heavy wide receiver draft. Last night, even just Chris G and I, you're in the tournament. Everyone else is on vacation. Hayden's prancing around Europe right now. Ian's moving to a different city. So it's just Chris G and I. We jump into a 20 max to $3 tournament because I still have bullets left over. And the room goes running back heavy. And I'm from the 102 with Jamar Chase. And I say, okay, I guess I'm just going to go wide receiver heavy here. So I get Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith. And then from then it's Christian Watson. It's just wide receivers down the board. Joe Burrow drops 18 spots because no one can stack him. And so I said, I have Jamar Chase, and I also have Jalen Hurts, but I could grab Joe Burrow too, just because everyone else is letting him fall. And then I start stacking from there. And I literally don't take my first running back. And by the way, this stream is still available for replay on the YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch it from yesterday. But I don't take my first running back till round 9 or 10, honestly, because every room is different. But Underdog, that's not the case. Every room's the same. And so we're not playing best ball. We're playing Underdog best ball. And I play best ball not only because it's money, but because I, as an adult, love playing games. And so it's fun because I'm trying to figure out a different game at every site. And I'm still trying to unlock Underdog, honestly.
Remind me to send you, actually, I'll send it right when we get off this stream, but I think you can flip the board sometimes too. Like, you just have to have some balls occasionally and do something
I have
different.
but when you come up in the poker and DFS world, you have a black heart. Like,
Yes.
nothing phases you anymore. You make decisions based on what you believe is optimal. That's it.
Right.
And the sick thing is that most of the time, something that is only like 30% EV, so it's suboptimal, you're considering optimal because the sickos you play with are trying to only view things in an optimal world, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And it goes to the point for this team that I'm about to bring up, where I had the 103 and I was like sitting there and I'm like, obviously Chase and Jefferson are going to go 1-2. How can I make this team slightly different? Because when you're in that 101, 102, 103 range, your teams start off the same for the most part. Like, not just yours, but like everyone else's. People are just drafting like the same core 3 guys around those spots. So I'm like, how can I flip this team? And what I decided to do was I took A.J. Brown at the 103. And obviously I have guys ranked above him at that spot, but I wanted to flip the board a bit. So what I did was I took A.J. Brown. I got Hurts and T on the next 2 picks. And I don't remember who I went with next, but I grabbed Joe Burrow as well. And I built this double elite QB team with these guys that I just think no one else will have. And when I show you the team, you're going to be like, oh, it's actually like a solid built team. And it's like my favorite team that I drafted so far.
So you literally, like poker, you threw out blockers. You're like, I'm actually protecting my stack right now, and I dare you to do something different because I don't think you can.
Right. And we just built this team,
amazing.
and it's like I looked at it and I was like, holy shit. So I'll send it to you, and I don't know if you have somewhere you want to post it for your listeners, but it's a solid squad for doing something completely unique by flipping AJ Brown. And that was the only 2 things we did different, right? We flip AJ Brown, we get Joe Burrow, and then if we just draft by ADP, our team is still going to be so much more unique than everybody else's. And am I saying to draft double elite QB all the time? No. But just like anything, you should probably differentiate a little bit here and there and do it.
What's really going to be frustrating, I don't know if it'll happen. I don't think I have a lean, but what's really going to be frustrating is if we go back and analyze whomever the BBM4 winner may be, whomever the $125 FFPC 200K to the top winner is, and it is just Mahomes, Kelsey with T. Higgins. Like, that's it. That's the stat. Yeah. It's going to be fucking annoying that we spent all these months trying to galaxy brain all this stuff only to just ultimately decide that we should have done the right thing.
Right. And that's that discussion you were talking about. Like, even though it is 40 to 50% done in almost every tournament, should you just do Kelsey Mahomes? Is that just what you should be doing? And that's what makes best ball fun, because it could be right this year, but it could be wrong next year.
And because of the Spike Week tools, I know that at least last week, I was only the third team in the FFPC tournament, just the third, to go Kelsey, Derrick Henry, Patrick Mahomes, and T. Higgins. I know that for a fact. So that's just something to think about. That's how I'm trying to get unique, is the players around what is considered to be the majority stack. How, as you mentioned, how are you getting unique around it? And because of the data we have, we know how to get unique around it. And I think that's most important.
I completely agree. And I think people mistake getting unique with being crazy, where getting unique could just be one or two different things you do in the draft. Reaching in the third for reaching, quote unquote, because you can have these receivers in the same tier. Getting a fourth round wide receiver in the third round to pair with another fourth round wide receiver. I wish I did it more 2 years ago. That Cooper Kupp year, I don't know if you remember that range of wide receivers. It was Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Robert Woods at the time.
Yep.
Chris Godwin. There was like two others, and we loved them all. And like when you get to the fifth round, you were agonizing over which one to take. Imagine if you were just like, you know what, I'm just going to take Mike Evans in the fourth and then Cooper Kupp in the fifth.
I always go back and review my tiers from the previous year just to analyze and see what I could have done better. And I vividly recall that year. It seemed outrageous, but like I felt good just in having Cooper Kupp in the same tier as Robert Woods, because a lot of people didn't. Rich Rebar actually called Kupp over Woods significantly, so he got it right from the very beginning. But I had them in the same tier, and that's why I also do tier drafting and have my tiers on the site, because that's how I view the world. Is actually like this year, Bijan and Eckler are in the same exact tier as Ramondre, Tony Pollard, and Nick Chubb, because they're all the same player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm starting to get overweight on Chubb, Pollard, like crazy because of that.
But Alexander Madison, absolutely not in the same tier. You can go read about that then. So now, Rob, I told you a 5-minute interview, and we literally kept each other up for an hour nearly today. So tell everyone where to go find the tools.
Go to spikeweek.com, and that's where you can sign up for them. We have a couple of promos out there. I know if you go to Legendary Upside with Pat Carrain, there is some sort of promo going on there as well. I have been out of the loop for 2 weeks, so not 100% sure of the best place to go for those. But yeah, go take a peek. Watch us on stream, and you can see the tools in action. And you'll be seeing myself and Daigle together, I'm sure, on a few more streams throughout the summer. More specifically with me in my nice, cushy living room with my setup and my lights and my microphone, so that I don't sound ridiculously bad like I probably do on the phone.
With maybe like a 5K, 10K upgrade to it. No longer the retirement 50K upgrade, but you could afford a 5K upgrade.
That's right. We can afford a 5K upgrade.
All right, buddy. We will genuinely talk very soon. And seriously, I'm proud of you. Good job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Some quick cleanup before we get out of here. One, again, thank you for joining. Make a bee's knees for your friends this weekend. Two, if you're in the Chicago area, if you are around Elk Grove, where the public SFB live draft, Scott Fishbowl live draft in Chicago is happening at 11 a.m., Elk Grove, please come out and see us. I will gladly buy you a drink if you come tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, I showed up just because you mentioned it. Andy Behrens, Connor Allen, Rob Wozniak, Joe Metz, Jim Coventry, so many other names will be there, because the Chicago area is not only a wrestling hub, but a big fantasy football hub as well. We'll all be out there just having a good time. I know the scoring format, but honestly, it's imagine how many people are in the SFB draft. I'm not trying to win. I don't care. I'm not going to win. It's a lottery ticket. I'm going and drafting on vibes. I'm just going to go and have a great time with my friends because that's what life is about. So please come join and have a great time as well. Also, if you want more football content, more best ball content, it's all on the site. My 4 Flag Plants with John Paulson came on the podcast feed, the most accurate podcast, yesterday, Wednesday evening. The YouTube feed that you're watching right now, which you should like and subscribe right now before you leave, whether you're watching this on replay or not, is also out there with a best ball draft. As I mentioned, myself and Chris G highlighting a $3 20 max draft yesterday. So it's all out there for you. We have another week, another 2 weeks actually, until veterans report to training camp and it really heats up. But until then, we'll be back next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, for another cocktail with more friends. But until that point, be a little bit kinder than what's required. We'll see you next time.